In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to set up a tessellation node system within Unreal 4 to get certain objects to really pop and have that real physical look to it as we segue into our holographic magic material. So let's get started. All right, so you can see here I have my ice set up here. If I click on it, you'll even see Unreal try to compensate for the new shape that's connected to it. I created a node system of tessellation properties plugging into each one of the tessellation nodes in the material itself. So let's go and open up that material real quick and we'll take a look at it. And let me explain, to speed things up a little bit, how this works. So I brought in a Vertex Normal WS. What this guy does, even though you'll see there's no properties here, he actually is linked to the vertex of our object as we use a multiply and bring in our texture. Having him there allows Unreal 4 to actually read a world displacement based on this texture property. Now I'm just plugging in the green channel. He really is gray. We can actually use his raw information if we wanted to by plugging into A, but I just plugged it in the green for now. And I use two scalar properties here to actually control the strength of our tessellation. So one of them here goes directly into our multiply, and he's set to like 0.8. or 8.0, I should say. And then we have a tessellation multiplier here, and that's all I did was change the name of this scalar parameter. And I plugged him into our tessellation multiplier right there. So pretty cool. And then we have our two multiplies. Now again, if you need any of these, you just type it in. Just put scalar. Get this guy to come up. You can drag him into the scene. And I have two multiplies in there. And again, the same with Vertex Normal. So let's go and grab these guys real quick. And we're going to apply this. I'm going to show you how to do this. How to do the plugs in here. And we're going to apply this guy into our crystal material. Now when we looked at the crystal material before, I kept it pretty generic. Even had some real quick plugins here for the world displacement. Now I prefer using this tessellation setup, which you saw back here at the ice. And again, I just made a new material and then I created this system. I even commented it for you. I like this system better than some of the default real materials that Unreal 4 gives you because we can actually control it and know exactly where everything goes. Now, as you saw before, in this texture, I plugged in my normal into here. Now, that isn't typical. The only reason I did that is I just wanted some of that etching going on, but I didn't necessarily want it to displace the surface or have an optical illusion of it. So what happens when I do this, Unreal 4 will read this as a bump map material because it only has black and white information, and that's connected. And you saw me plug in a couple things quickly into world displacement and tessellation. Those necessarily are going to be pretty generic, and I just did it really quick to keep it in there. But what we're going to do now is use those slots appropriately for what we want to do. So I'm going to right-click here, or left-click, to deselect that guy, and I'm going to do Control V to bring these guys in here, get these nodes active, and I'm just speeding things up a little bit here. And I got all these guys set up and ready to go. Again, we can comment to keep these guys all in one piece. So I'm going to move them down here just temporarily here, and I'm just going to comment these guys real quick. We'll just create a comment for the selection, and we'll call this our tessellation. Just call it Tess. And we'll move it as a section. And I'll just move it back just a little bit here. And we don't want to include this guy. So anytime they get stuck, Unreal does it by default. Just drag them down a bit. You should be okay. Actually, we do want to include this guy because he's kind of already in the refraction, but we want to include him also in the tessellation because we're going to need some color stuff. And I think this guy would actually work really well as our color deal. Let's go move this out a little bit. And then we'll just fit him right in there. Move the distance. So we're just spreading these things out a little bit. And I'm going to pull in my color information. Again, if I wanted to grab the green, the red, the blue, it really is just black and white. It's going to use that black and white as a reference point. So if I want to, I can just go straight into my multiply right here. And then I got my Vertex Normal WS, and I plugged them in the top of this secondary multiply. Okay. And then we have a distance parameter here. Now this guy is going to allow us to control the strength or the height of our tessellation. So if I want to, I could even make this a little bit lower or higher. But remember, the higher you go, the more inflated this crystal will be because he doesn't have a lot of geometry on him. And tessellation it helps to have a little bit of a dense mesh so that it reads and makes sense. So if you have a low poly mesh and you put a tessellation on it, it could look a little weird. So just keep that in mind. So tessellation multiply is at 1.5. I could even keep that at 1. I'm going to plug that right into our tessellation multiplier. And then our multiply here, I'm going to pull him in because it's used the vertex, not just raw tessellation. I'm going to use vertex because we were going to do displacement. So not only are we using tessellation, we're using displacement so they complement each other. There you go. Because world displacement actually works with our tessellation. So we have our multiplier, which is going to complement the node system we have set up here. So now let me go ahead and apply that. You see our textures recompile. And I'm going to go ahead and make this guy a little bit smaller. And we'll just minimize him for now. So now if we go in here, we'll look at our crystal. It's got a little bit more of an edge to it. The silhouette isn't too strong of a change, but it is a little bit here. You'll see it's rounded on the corners and not so sharp in some areas. And you'll even see it look like it's inflated a little bit than it was before. And again, you can play with that as you go. If I go to my previous material for my ice, I can apply that to whatever I want. And say we even generically put it on the ground, you'll see the ground temporarily inflate. Well, that's it for this lesson. For the next video, we're going to transition into the hologram one I've been talking about. Keep it pretty simple and straightforward, and we'll wrap up our scene. And you can get a little example of what that hologram is going to look like right here. And we'll be using rotating panner nodes and to get a nice glow effect and mess with the opacity mask clipping value. That's about it.